All right, here we are on another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. So, Peter, we are
Yes,
on
Bill.
episode number 383,
Hmm.
and I'm going to start today's podcast off with a confession.
Okay.
This podcast should really be podcast number 1.
You okay?
And I don't know why it took me 383 podcasts to think of this podcast and to
Hmm.
even devise it. In fact, when I was reading it this morning to rehearse it, because I wrote it a couple weeks ago, I thought to myself, this podcast is so good, I'm going to write a book on it, I think.
Ah.
Yeah. So here's the name of today's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
How do you safely go from a job, or as I call it, a J.O.B?
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you go safely from a job to creative real estate, consistent income in today's economy? I don't know why that's not podcast number 1. It literally took me 383 podcasts to figure out this was needed and wanted. Okay.
Happens.
Here is today's description. Imagine if there was a very simple yet workable blueprint that could take you from your JOB to creative real estate without taking risks, especially with the way the economy is today. Particularly if you don't have a pile of cash or a credit score without a colorful past or any kind of real estate experience. Instead, we will reveal to you how so many before you have not only replaced their income, but built wealth along the way. And I am talking about everyday people like you that didn't take the plunge yet into real estate to get started. Even better than all of this, we have tested and proven resources that will cut your success down to about 30 days if you honestly follow along and do it. This doesn't mean you study for 30 days. No, I'm talking about having a chunk of dough in your hip national bank, baby. In other words, your pocket, in 30 days. So make sure you listen now so you too can start the journey from JOB to creative real estate without risk in today's economy.
Okay, that's it.
I am not going to do any housekeeping today.
No.
You know how to get a hold of us. It's flippinghousesforrookies.com. Support tickets on the top right hand side. And there is a link in the chat that I am not going to discuss. You need to go, or it's in the description of wherever you're watching us or listening to us. I am not going to promote it at all. If you don't go check out the link, you lose. End of story. And here we go, Peter. I'm going to skip over all of that.
Get right down to it, huh?
I'm excited about this. How about you?
Well, I am. I've been doing this a little bit with you, and I've had some great success, made great chunks of money and cash flow, and like, holy crap, this works. I still need to make it more consistent. You got it better than I, but you should because you're ahead of me. But this is exactly where I am again right now. Like, okay, yeah,
And
I've
the
been there. Like,
interesting
how do I
thing
just
in my
get more of this going, and I'll be fine.
good. The interesting thing for me is over 30 years, I've
Mhm.
had to reinvent myself multiple times. We call it bootstrapping. In other words, grab a hold of your boots and pull them up and just figure it out. And I
Yes.
thought about this because I've been kind of working on some personal enhancement, and I've been kind of scanning through my life a bit, going back and looking at things, from when I was a
Mhm.
wild young boy. Now I'm just
Mhm.
now I'm just a wild old man, and
Mhm.
and I realize that I don't think it was ever me.
What? Say that
I
again.
I don't think it was ever really me. I think
Wow.
it's just the economy's change and technology changes, and I
Oh.
kind of had it figured out. The amazing thing about real estate is there is no other job on planet Earth, or at least in America, that I know of, where you could work hard once and get paid multiple, 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 sometimes for years at a
Hmm.
time. I don't know of any. I don't know of any
Well,
other job like
there
that.
is one thing. There is
Hmm.
one. You have to write a hit song,
Oh,
and good luck with that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, but for just an actual job, you're right, and that's what probably attracts a lot of people to it. I was at my doctor's office, and the physician's assistant, they own 3 properties. How'd you do that? Like it, regular. Put money down, go to the bank, inch by inch. But even them, they just want properties.
Right. Now, the flip side of that is that the real estate trends change.
Mm,
So real estate trends, trends, trends
hmm.
change, and they go up and down.
Yeah.
And that was my realization when I was kind of like working on my stuff. Is like I survived all that somehow, some way. I was tenacious enough with thick skin, and
Yeah.
I handled the ups and downs. Now I am going to tell you point blank the reason why I do what I do, like today, the podcast, and I've created software and I've helped so many other people, is for two reasons.
Hmm.
Number one, when you're at the top, it gets lonely. When I mean at the top, I mean, you kind of get things figured out and you're
Hmm.
just kind of boogieing along doing whatever you want,
Hmm.
right? And the other is it was too painful and it was too hard. And the other reason why is because there is not a body of data that I know of that is consistent, that covers all of creative real estate, and that is proven, right?
Yeah.
And those guys that have that may not be interested in sharing, or girls may not be interested in sharing.
Hmm.
So it is of interest to me to do that someday, and that's what I actually do. I do now. We're not organized, because 383 podcasts. They're all random subjects.
Hmm.
But I will tell you that the new software, and then we'll get on to the podcast. The new software that I created, that I helped, well, I created it. I had help. I had 3 other partners that did a
Hmm.
lot of the techie stuff, but I'm the real estate guy. And
Hmm.
Creative REI Reply is the closest thing that I've been able to manufacture. And now that software is a year and a half old, and it has produced way more. I'm saying a year and a half, that software has produced way more successful students than I think I've produced in 10 years private coaching.
Yeah. No, I've watched it just on your site. Absolutely, you can see the
Not
difference.
not that my coaching is bad, but the software is there all the time with them 24/7. And
Hmm.
and it's just amazing. So we're gonna elevate that pretty soon too. Uh, anyways, my special gift to the rookie listeners today, and honestly, I'm not sure why I didn't do this before, right? I'm going to cover how a rookie can go from a J.O.B, and I call it J.O.B. It's not my slang. I read it somewhere many years ago.
Hmm.
It's an acronym, meaning that each letter stands for the first letter of a word, and it is just over broke,
Yep.
right? That's what job is, just over broke. So
Hmm.
how can you go from a J.O.B to creative real estate income to supply a rookie or his or her lifestyle?
Yep.
Now, I know I'm kind of babbling a little bit. I'm going to get to this in a minute, I promise. But I've told this story to you a couple times. Like I really went through some stuff a little while back, mentally. Like, why do I want all this money?
Hmm.
What is it about money that attracts me to it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's gross. Money is illegal. In the United States, money is 100% illegal, made legal by politicians. Right? It's against the Constitution of the United States. The
You mean the
forefathers,
paper money?
yeah, our money is against our money. Our monetary system is against what the
Oh,
Constitution of the United States was written for.
yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
why is that? And the reason that I figured out is because it supplies my lifestyle. So if I decide that I want to come to Florida like I'm doing right now for 7 months and just and rent houses and cars and do what I'm doing, my personal enhancement and anything that I want to do, it pays for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can ramp it up or ramp it down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, right? So quick disclaimer. Now, because of the legal beagles out there that might listen to this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
I have to say what I'm about to cover has worked for so many of my students, but not for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the legal disclaimer. And here's the reason why it didn't work for all of them. And this
Yeah.
is important and worth in writing. It's worth noting or writing down.
Mm.
Right. So here are the points, and there's just 3.
Okay.
The reason why it doesn't work is because number one, it depends on how much time the rookie puts into the work that needs to be done. I could tell you, having done a lot of personal coaching, the number one reason that I run into is life.
Mm.
My daughter had a car accident. My wife's 50th anniversary. 50th birthday. My parents got sick. My kids this. Just life gets in the way.
Yeah.
Which by the way is the hardest thing to overcome. And it doesn't matter how good you are, how strict you are, life gets in the way. Even for you and I. It happens to you and I too. Not that we're like better than anybody else, but I'm just saying it
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Sure. We're alive.
Which is the reason why we like to use automation, because robots don't have a life. So there's no reason to get in the way, right?
Okay.
Number 2, how much the rookie understands and can apply what was taught. So the absorption of data is very very interesting subject, which you and I can go on for multiple podcasts because it is an incredible subject, as you are aware, because that is your arena. But how you duplicate data and then be able to go apply it is very interesting, because we inject things. Our experience in our past allows us to change the information as we absorb it based on
Yeah.
our opinions. If you think,
Yeah.
if your opinion is you wouldn't talk to somebody that way, then you've just altered something that has taken me thousands of hours to figure out and thousands of students and customers to work with. You don't have it. You lose it. Okay. So we're going to wait here because I think we lost Peter. I'll just keep going until he gets back. So number 3, if the student or the rookie sticks with it for a long enough time, they'll get results. So we just lost Peter. He's going to have to log back in. So what happens is, first, number 1. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I got thrown out. I'm back.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. So I'm just going to review. So number 1 is how much time the rookie puts into the work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is how much they understand, or how much the rookie understands and actually can apply what was taught. Exactly. No variations.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No mistakes. No, because again, it's taken me thousands of hours and thousands of students and sellers and buyers to figure out these sentences that somebody will change too quick. And number 3,
Yep.
will the rookie stick with it long enough to get results? Right. Now, there are many others, but this is what I found. So Napoleon Hill said, or once said, successful people are slow to change and very reluctant to being stampeded by popular belief.
Mm.
So that goes
Slow
for
to
number 1.
change?
Yeah, they're slow to change.
Mm.
So that kind of goes into the three that I just talked about, right? Because the first one is um, and I'm belaboring this too much. I'm going to move on in a minute here. This is not the point of today's podcast. It's just a warm up, right? So, how much
Mhm.
time the rookie puts into the work that needs to be done? How much do they understand and can apply to what was taught? And if they stick with it for a long enough time to get results. Napoleon Hill once said, successful people are slow to change and very reluctant to being stampeded by popular belief.
Mm.
Okay. So
Yep.
working very hard, working for a year, working for 2 years, 5 years, or a decade on real estate, which, by the way, is bullshit these days. Because if you're doing that, that means you have misunderstoods. You don't understand something and you're not applying it correctly, or you're doing one of the three things I was just talking about. Because it doesn't have to be that way, especially since Creative REI Replay has been around.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the gist of what I want to devise in today's blueprint.
Okay.
All right. So listen to these words. I'm just going to read it because it's Dan Kennedy.
Mm.
So I don't want to alter it. So he doesn't say rookies, but rookies need to be internally consistent, meaning you need a litmus test, or you need litmus tests and start. I'm sorry. You need litmus tests and short list of how you do things
Mm-hmm.
and how you don't do things.
Mm-hmm.
What you place as important, what you place importance on, and what you don't place importance on, because you want to reduce the amount of flexibility in your own decision making so you don't easily become irrationally exuberant. And exuberant means lively or happy or energetic. And that's exactly what happens in real estate is people get irrationally exuberant. What does that mean to you, Peter? Just so.
Yeah, I was trying to put that together. Well, irrationally, I mean, being exuberant is one thing, but irrationally, like you go off like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, this is going to be great. And I saw this on TV and I bought this course and, oh, it's going to be so great. Then you find out what you really need to do. And it's not quite like that. You know, there's some work involved and you're going 100 miles an hour and you hit a flat tire and everything comes to a halt.
So exactly right. So here, let's put it in perspective. You
Hmm.
put together a plan. You're like over the top, exuberant on. I'm going to do 3 houses a month, and I'm going to make $1 million next year.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even know how to find a lead.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
I just went through this with my wife yesterday. I actually kind of put my foot down. She's
Mm-hmm.
got a coaching client because she coaches chiropractors and all that kind of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they do amazing work. Anyways, she wants me to call this client. He's living in a house, and the owner wants to sell it, and he doesn't have enough deposit money
Mm.
to go get a loan.
Okay.
So she's telling me that over the next 3 months, because he's got a 4-month agreement left or whatever, over the next 3 months, he's going to make that money.
Okay.
He's got $21,000. He needs $80,000.
Ooh. In 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
So I said to her, "Has he done that before?" Well, he did. He made 21. He made the 21,000 from this event, so he's only done it once. Yeah. So I said to her, "I'll talk to him out of courtesy for you, but I'm going to tell you right now, he's a waste of my time. I don't want to get on the phone with him. I'll talk to him while I'm driving. I'll talk to him while I'm doing something else, but I don't take phone calls like that
Yeah.
because he's being irrationally exuberant."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense like that.
let me read that again, and then we'll move on. Rookies need to be internally consistent, meaning you need litmus tests and short list of how you do things and how you don't do things, what you place important what you place importance on and what you don't place importance on, because you want to reduce the amount of flexibility in your own decision making, reduce the flexibility in your own decision making,
Mm,
so you don't easily become irrationally exuberant. So, meaning flexible in your own decision making. If you're gonna, and I've always said this, you've heard me say that we hired a coach, we're gonna do what the coach says. If it doesn't work, then we'll start to think on our own. But we hired the coach to do
yeah,
that, so
yeah,
do what he says, right?
yeah. I mean, educationally, you can't argue about what somebody writes or teaches until you see what's going on.
Right.
Like, you have to see if it really works or not before you say it doesn't work. It won't work. No, check it out first before you open your mouth.
So now you may not realize this. You may think that we're just chit chatting. You may think this may not be important to the blueprint, but this is vital,
Hmm.
because when I want to say, by the way, thank you, Dan Kennedy, for those words. See, what you need to realize is there are always opportunities to test things in small ways to see if they work. So
Hmm.
that's what our rookies should be doing. That's the LPness test. If you're not sure what that means, a LPness test means you're testing things to see if the data is correct.
Right.
That's a litmus test. It's a physical application to see if the theory actually works.
Hmm.
So if you have a job, that J.O.B, that gross disease that I would try to get you out of, I'm just joking around. I understand it. I've had them. I get it. Money is money. You got to support your family and all that stuff. But if you're not always growing, then something's wrong. And that's just
Mm.
my core belief. You know me, I'm always trying to grow somewhere.
Yep.
I'm always trying to grow something. And I like to grow groups. So I do well with groups, right?
Hmm.
Then and only then can you validate or invalidate what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So you
Hmm.
have to have these short little tests that you can plant in the physical universe and test them to see if they work in your life or not work in your life. And you can either validate them, which means, yeah, that was good for me, that was successful, I got this out of it,
Yep.
or invalidate it by saying, I'm not doing that again because it brought me more bad than good. Which, by the
Yep.
way, that's how you test these things. Is, did it bring you the greatest good for the greatest number of things that you wanted, or did it hurt the most amount of things for the things that you wanted?
Hmm.
Right? That's how you would measure it. So this is where I see too many rookies derail before even getting started.
Hmm.
See, creative real estate means controlling the documents that own the property. That's what creative real estate is. You're not buying and selling houses, you're buying and selling what controls the real estate. See, banks are not in the real estate business. A very affluent banker, when you talk to them, which I have, CEOs of American National Bank, I mean, Jeff Merritt, I shouldn't say his last name, Jeff, our buddy Jeff, does work for these guys all the time. He's in their houses. They have $10 million houses, right? They're very
Hmm.
affluent people, right? And and when you talk to these people one on one, you realize things like, well, real estate is just the way for them to make their money. The real money is in the money. In other words, the real estate is the reason why somebody would want to get a loan, but the real money is not in the real estate, it's in the loan, aka the interest and the closing cost and all the stuff that goes along with the loan, right? Okay, so we're going to lose Peter again. So the way we control real estate and creative real estate are things like deeds and a lease with an option to buy, an agreement for deed, etc. These are all different devices we use to actually control the real estate. So the idea is that you don't worry about owning the real estate. Now, obviously, a deed, you own the real estate, But
Hmm.
other devices like leases with options to buy and agreements for deed, and there's a few other types, it has nothing to do with the real estate, which makes me chuckle because so many rookies will go out and do a a CSI investigation, like it's like the biggest thing since they built the Empire State Building, right? To go investigate a property, and they're all about the plumbing and the sheetrock and the 200-year-old this and they're and I did this. I remember doing this when I first started. Spending a week looking at houses, inspecting houses, and then and spend 3 days getting estimates from contractors and trying to figure everything out. And then I talked to the seller for like literally 2.5 minutes. And I'm like, I wouldn't do that.
Mm.
And you just wasted 2.5 days on a piece of property with a non-motivated seller,
Yep.
right? So our scripts and all of our um, materials, as you so eloquently put it, is 5 minutes 47 seconds, which is your average on qualifying somebody,
Hmm.
right? Is how we survive, because we're looking for those people that are willing to talk about, not do the deal, but willing to talk about monthly payments or some sort of a discount, right?
Right.
So once you understand you can control property and never own it, the light should start to brighten up in your own mind. This is the litmus test I'm talking about. This is where rookies should start. They get too much information mixed up. They're trying to do subject to deals, and they're trying to do owner finance deals, and they're trying to do flips, and they're trying to. Don't do that. No, start with what we call a slot deal, which is a sandwich lease option transfer, which is pretty much wholesaling lease options. Option agreements, which is selling for cash in 90 days, which I can show you how to do better than anybody else. Or
Hmm.
actually a rent to own, which is where you do a rent to own with your seller and then do a separate rent to own with your buyer, and you stay in the deal because there's money now, money monthly, money later. The first one, you don't make money now, money. The slot deal is a sandwich lease option too, but you don't stay in the deal because you're only making money on the deposit money. You're not making
Hmm.
money now, money monthly, money later,
Hmm.
right? So, am I going too fast? Is this okay?
No, well, I mean, we've had 382 podcasts before this, so I hope folks know some of these basics
Right.
because can't start from the beginning every time. But it's interesting the way you just put it. The slot deal, there's money now, and then the option deal, there's money now, and then the next deal, there starts to be money now, monthly, and later.
Right.
So, would you say it's true that the lower you go on the deal structures, the more money there might be in it for you
Yes. Yeah, because
in
there's
the
more
long run?
equity.
Yeah, more equity and more.
Yeah, because and if you look at the deal structures, if you go on to flippinghousesforrookies.com, and we're not meant to teach this to you today, but I have a hierarchy, which I'm the only one that I know that does 7 different deals and
Mm.
teaches the equity spread on which deal, which offer you should make. I've not met anybody else that does that.
No, I've never
But
seen it.
the hierarchy is a slot deal is 0 equity, an option deal is 10% equity, a rent to own, which is a sandwich lease option, is a sandwich lease option too, but you stay in it, is 15% worth of equity. All
Hmm.
those 3 deals is the Nelson Rockefeller plan, where you control everything. You don't own anything and control everything. As soon
Hmm.
as you go down to the next deal structure, it's a subject to deal. That's 20% worth of equity. The reason why it's 20% worth of equity is because you're getting a deed and now you own it and you have way more liability.
Right.
The
So you
next
want
one
the
down,
equity. You want the
yes,
equity, so you have that like the buffer. If anything goes wrong, you got money in the house built in as your cushion.
you can't lose money. Even if the market swings, most markets don't swing more than 20%. But
Hmm.
I mean, Florida and Vegas has done it, but for the rest of the country, it doesn't. They usually don't swing more than 20%, so you're not going to lose your
Hmm.
shirt. Then the next one down is flip and fix, or fix and flip, which is 30% worth of equity. The next one down is wholesale, which is 40% worth of equity, and then the last one
Hmm.
is seller or owner financing, which is 100% worth of equity. So
Hmm.
we're keeping you, when you're a rookie, we're keeping you out of, because from the getting the deed down, they're all deed deals, and that's where you get in trouble. So as a rookie in the beginning, you do the litmus test of doing deals without getting a deed. You do
Hmm.
lease options and options. You don't need attorneys. You stay away from ugly houses. You don't need contractors. You don't need a bunch of stuff. It's just you and the seller doing the deal. And as long as the seller is willing and motivated and flexible, and you stick to my criteria, you have nothing to lose. This is your litmus test. I mean, you could do a slot deal, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. You could find and do a slot deal in a week. I've seen it happen way too many times. In a week, you can do a deal. It's incredible, right? So all this adds up to time and risk to the deal, right? All this adds up to time and risk to the deal. So just to close is usually 35 to 40 days when you're doing the deed deals. When you're using deeds, it's 30 to 45 days minimally, right? You know, we're talking about the rehabs or selling and closing with your buyer. You know, it could take 6 to 12 months, and it's a lot of work, right? So you don't go after those deals in the beginning, right? I'm sorry, I cut you off. What'd you say?
No, I don't know. Nothing big. It's just that it's like training wheels.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are afraid to do something in real estate and make a mistake. So you just start with the ones that they don't have anything really to lose. Very, very simple. And I've had those deals. I sleep fine at night. If it doesn't work out, I got nothing to lose. If it wins, I win big. So that's where you start. Then until you know what you're doing, then you can do the other deals and do those safely too. So you know how to, vet those, so you're not getting it over your head.
Right. And like I said, if you stick to the option deals, which by the way, the definition of an option, a real estate option, is the obligation. I'm sorry, the right to buy, but not the obligation to buy. So it's just like an option in the stock market, right? Where you go there and you say, okay, I want to buy an Apple stock for $400, and you don't have $400. Well, you can buy an option, we'll say, for $10. So if the stock goes up tomorrow from 400 to 450, you can sell it. You have the right to sell it and make your $50. If that stock was 400 today and went down to 350 tomorrow, you're not obligated to buy it. All you lose is the $10 for the option consideration deposit. Houses are exactly the same way. So if you only give somebody $10 or $100 or $20, it has to be some paper money. Don't go more than $100. So if you give somebody $100 for an option agreement, that's your litmus test. Now you go and try to market it and see if the house is worth it. And then when you find your buyer, the best thing in the world to do is to negotiate with your seller once you find your buyer, because you already know how much the buyer is willing to pay. So just subtract your numbers and negotiate from there. So if your seller's asking for 110, you go find a buyer, you go find 3 buyers and they all want to pay 100. Well, guess what? You go back to the seller and say, hey, here's what the market said. Here's what I got 3 people. I had 180 people or 130 people go to my ad. I've had 5, I've had 30 or 40 people go through the house, and I've got 5 offers, and they're all at $100,000. So what do we do now? I mean, they can go on the market with a realtor. They can go on the market with anybody they want. It's still going to be the same result. But you didn't lose anything. You have $100 at risk. This is the litmus test I'm talking about. But in the meantime, if you have a job, when you're doing this, what will happen is you'll be able to get used to doing the deal, and you'll see how much time it takes. You'll learn your mistakes. You'll do all this kind of stuff before you quit your job. So you go do these deals until all of a sudden now you're doing 1 deal a month or 2 deals a month, and you got consistent income. Now you can think with, okay, well, maybe I can get rid of my job because I'm making this much with real estate, I'm making this much with my job, or you start making decisions that way, right?
Sure.
So the reason why you're doing this type of a deal is because it's a quick moving deal, and you can test it and check it and see how much risk there is. And you're going to realize there is no risk. The only risk is the $100. Yeah, somebody might get pissed off at you if you sign an option agreement and you don't sell the house, but you walk away, so they're mad. So what?
Yeah, but you explain everything to them going in. like a realtor would. Sorry, I didn't sell the house. They can be disappointed, but there's nothing really to be mad about because we tell them what's going to happen, and we don't.
Right. Okay, we lost Peter again. So doing it this way, you don't have to scrap what you're doing for income now and plunge into real estate full force, because you could test it and you can make some money. Maybe your first deal you only make 3,000 or 5,000, right? But that's 3 or 5,000 that's above and beyond your regular income now. So the point is you could start building higher deals. Like for example, uh, you may be an area, you might be in an area where the houses are only $100,000. Well, change your area, which is the reason why we use creative area replay. And we've the last couple podcasts have talked about, going down into the Sun Belt, right? So go down
Yep.
where there's $800,000 properties and start doing stock deals. Now, instead of making 5,000, or $5,000 for a deal, you do the same amount of work, the same litmus test, you do the same paperwork, you do everything the same except the price of the house changes, and now you make $40,000 or $50,000 for one deal.
Hmm.
So this is encouraging, which is backwards than what most rookies think, because most rookies think that they want to buy cheaper houses. They want to practice on the $40,000 house.
Yeah, but if you have a deed on a $40,000 house, how much can you lose?
Right. Exactly. So
Right.
if you take my advice that we're talking about today and you do non-deeded deals, you can't get hurt, right?
Hmm.
So here's what happens. The rookie picks the wrong farm market, mostly because he or she wants to do business in their backyard, which means a short car right away.
Hmm.
Or as I like to call it, an arm's length away. In other words, you're only managing enough space that you can touch.
Yeah.
If you can't touch it, you can't manage it, right? And
Hmm.
most businesses, this is bad management. Having to see something to make a good decision is actually a lack of training, in truth. You just don't know, you don't understand the process enough.
Hmm.
This is why I'm telling you that you do a litmus test. This is why that's why so many people are doing so well in creative REI replay, is because we have the tools that you need. We have the checklists. We have everything there. So you just follow along in your first deal. And the only thing you're going to gamble on, if you're really worried about money, really, really, really worried about money, just use $10. My first deal, I gave the guy $10 on an option agreement, and I had
Hmm.
$16,000 made until I got to the closing, and the owner actually realized. He came to the closing. He thought I was a joke. He actually came to the closing and argued with me and wouldn't sign the documents. And I took him outside and had to give him $5,000. So I ended up making 11,000. But it was because he nobody the realtor. He was like, "Yeah, you think you could sell it? Yeah, I'll sign that. Yeah, okay, yeah." And he thought I was a joke, right?
Oh,
And I
really?
and yeah, 3 weeks later I had a closing. So
Right. And he would have gotten what you promised him.
right.
Right. That's
Right.
the deal that he signed.
Well, I had already given him the amount of money he wanted, but he when he saw how much I was making, that was my mistake, because I didn't prepare him that I was making 16,000.
Yeah.
So so
Mhm.
here's what happens: the farm market, and when I mean farm market, just think of it as like a pasture that a farmer would grow his potatoes or his bananas or his apples or whatever. A farm market is the acreage on a farm that you would harvest, right? So when I say farm market, I'm talking about an area that you would do your work in, like either a zip code or a county or a state or a city, wherever it is. Um, so what happens here is the farm market is hard, either to buy houses or to sell houses or both. Like we're going through that right now. Our farm market is in Connecticut, and it's hard to buy houses there. So we need to talk about changing our farm market, because why fight the tide? I mean, the country. I haven't written this down. I
Mhm.
know I keep diverting, and I'm sorry, but I need to keep going here. Realize that it took me 20 years, Peter. 20 years. 20 years. We keep losing Peter. His internet's bad today. It took me 20 years to realize that there's pocket markets. So you might be in the state of Connecticut, and all of the state of Connecticut seems difficult. But in one little place like Plainville, Connecticut, which is one little small town, you can have an emerging market, right? So it took me 20 years to figure that out, because if you pay attention, you don't need a big metropolitan city to make a lot of money. You just need a good emerging market to be able to buy one house a month. I mean, you're talking 12 houses a year. So if there's, 20,000 houses in that town, do you think you can buy 12 of them a year? Right? So that's what you want to look for. You want to look for these little pockets that you can get in and be good at. And when you're doing that, when you have these little pockets and you actually work on or work in those pockets, right? When you start working in those little pockets, you start getting good, and you understand those pockets. So the important thing to realize is that emerging markets are not like the whole state or the whole county. It could be one little pocket inside of that state or inside of the county. And like I said, if there's 5,000 houses in that little pocket, can you buy 12 a year? And the answer is yes. So you don't need to have a big metropolitan. You just need to find that little pocket that's that's an emerging market. By the way, emerging market means that it's outperforming the rest of the market, right? So if the analysis are, the prices are going up by 3% and the houses are selling in 45 days on the market, and you find a little pocket and they're going up by 5% and they're selling at 28 days in the market, then you're good, right? So, oh my goodness, the number one thing that I see rookies failing on, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. What I see rookies failing on is picking their farm market, because they pick a farm market that's not conducive to them doing deals. So the first thing is that they decide, oh, I'm going to do subject to deals, because that's the seminar they went to.
Yeah, right.
Right. Instead of just talking to a seller and choosing which one of the 7 is best for them. And then the next point is picking your farm market and deciding who you're going to market to and who you're going to talk to, because you could do things like we did a podcast, I don't know, 4 or 5 podcasts ago about marketing. Maybe it was longer than that, but about marketing, like who are you talking to, right? It's like if you want to date someone, right, and you're a 50-year-old guy, I mean, are you gonna like, where are you gonna go to find a date?
Mm.
I mean, you're gonna go to a roller skating rink? You know what I
No,
mean? I mean, where are you
no.
going to go to find somebody that's a 50-year-old girl that has interests like you, right?
You got to go
And
to the
it's
blues club.
yeah, I knew you were going to have a smart comment.
Sorry.
So,
No,
so
it's
the point
true.
is it's the same way when you're doing your real estate deals. Like if you're looking for certain motivated people, you got to go to where they are, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, which means to me, Peter, your front end results are going to turn into crappy back end results or no results if you pick the wrong farm market and you don't know what you want, which is what I'm trying to pay attention to here, or get you to pay attention to here, is that the decisions you make early on without knowing the business, right,
Mm-hmm.
are usually where the mistakes happen. So with rare exceptions, do people go from 6 figures to 7 figures by simply working harder,
Mm.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
at what they're already doing or know how to do, right? You need to evolve to do things differently, right? You need to evolve to do things differently. But what should be done as a process of change, not a cycle of abrupt and irrational leads, irrational leaps from one entirely different thing to another.
Mm.
So basically, if you have a job and you're making money, or you have income, you're making money, you should not leap into, used to be I would preach that, but you should not leap into real estate. You
Mm.
need to test it first. You need to prove that it can work before you move into it. Right? You don't want to destroy your income. Now, if you retire and all of a sudden you still have your income coming in and you want to try this, that's a different story. You
Sure.
sold a business, something like that is a different story.
Hmm.
But I'm talking about the average person, right? You shouldn't leap into it until you know that it's proven, right?
Right.
In other words, it's an evolution, not a revolution.
Well, I think one of the distinctive things is when you start real estate, you don't realize there's different types of houses, deals, strategies, reasons somebody would sell, how they would sell, creative finance. It's just different. It's not just there's a house, you're going to buy it. That's really way too simple. There's things
Yeah,
to
and
think
that
and
that
figure
irritates the
what
hell out of
works.
me because that irritates the hell out of me because, and there's nothing I can do about it. But
Right.
people tell me, "Oh, you're in real estate. Oh, I want to give you my neighbor's name. They're trying to sell a house."
Yeah.
And then you ask them, "Well, how long have they been selling?" "Oh, I've been trying to sell it for 8 months." And then I think to myself, "Yeah."
Hmm.
I mean, I always call, and I've never made a deal from a referral like that,
Yeah.
right? Because a house is a house is a house. It's A equals A equals A. There's no there's no distinction. All A's equal other A's, and
Hmm.
there's not capital A's or lowercase A's. There's not blue A's and pink A's. All the A's are the same.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like that for a realtor. It's a
Yeah,
house. They're going to sell it, take it or leave it.
right.
Whatever condition it's in or whatever, they adjust the price and they don't do anything creative with it. That's not their job.
So listen, it's an evolution, not a revolution.
Hmm.
That's important. So a revolution means you have to fight it, and evolution means it just naturally occurs to
Yeah.
get into creative real estate if you're coming from a job.
Yeah.
Now, there is something to be said that, like I said, if you retire or you have your income straightened out where you can at least survive, now you can jump in, and necessity level is the mother of invention, right? So I've had people with that, but I have found that if that's too savage, and it's like I need to do a deal before I have 6 months to make a deal,
Mm.
it puts a too much neediness on it and a must-have on it, and
Mm.
it backfires on you,
Yeah.
right? Because you become what you resist. So if you don't buy a house within 6 months, right, then and you're resisting, like I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, you'll knock it out because you become what you resist, right? It's kind of like, I need to make money with real estate to pay my bills.
Hmm.
I need to pay my bills. Well, you know what that decision is?
What?
You know what the end result of that decision is?
Yeah, needing to pay bills.
Yeah, you're going to get more bills because that's what you're saying is I need to pay my bills. You're going to get more bills. The real estate has nothing to do with it. That's becoming what you resist. You're resisting having bills,
Hmm.
right? So you become that, right?
Yeah. Also, in that frame of mind, you're not going to be focusing much on how to help the other guy. You can be focusing on yourself too much.
Right. Exactly right.
Mm.
So realize, and I've said this in many podcasts before, right?
Hmm.
Once you do this, consistency is what sustains your success. So you do one slot deal, then you do another slot deal. So you might do a slot deal in January, another one in March, another one in July, and another one in December.
Hmm.
So once you've done these deals, the next thing to do to sustain your success is to consistently do how you did those 4 deals.
Right.
So the definition of success is doing more of the right things, less of the wrong things. Now
Hmm.
that you've done 2 or 3 or 4 deals, you know what's successful, and you can start implementing the successful things and kicking out the non-successful things, right? But now you
Sure.
know from your own litmus test what is and what isn't. Now you can validate or invalidate what you should and shouldn't be doing,
Sure.
right? So conversely, inconsistency, inconsistency almost guarantees short-lived success. And in real estate, we jump from one shiny object to the next. Inconsistency. You tried it for 3. You bought some guy's course at the RIA. You studied it. You did videos. You did that. You did this, and it didn't work. So you go back to the RIA, you buy another course. When in truth, the guy's course probably worked, or the girl's course probably worked. You misunderstood something and didn't apply it exactly to the decimal point, exactly the way the person that taught you told you to do it, or they weren't a good teacher.
Yeah, isn't it also true that if you learn one tool, that doesn't fit every seller? So
right.
the tool might be fine, but it won't work on the next guy you talk to. Put it in your
Or
toolbox, right? Like
or all the
the
things
7
we were
deals.
just talking about. You could be trying to
Yeah.
do that transaction in the wrong farm market.
Mm-hmm.
You might be trying to doing wholesaling because Stan Merrill told you to go do wholesaling, and you're doing it in a completely emerging market. In other words, the market's got a 10% growth rate in a year. So they'd be like, well, why would I want to sell at a discount? All I got to do is just get out of my way. There's 20 people behind you. Get out of line because there's 20 other people standing in line wanting to buy the house for 110%, 120% on the dollar. So why would you want to wholesale in that market? A perfect place for that is Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia, there's a ton of people there trying to do wholesale. So they've already had 45 phone calls before you, and they're sick and tired of it, right? So that's why it didn't work. It's not that wholesaling doesn't work. It's just that first of all the things we've been talking about for the last 51 minutes, you didn't consider. Mostly the farm market, right? So right now we're actually at the blueprint on how you can do a slot deal or rent to own as fast as possible and get a big chunk of dough, right? Then you do it again consistently until you feel comfortable so you can spawn out into other deals that are more complex, like the subject to owner financing and even expand and flip. Now, I want to take a second to just say something here that for some reason this gets overlooked like a banshee.
Really?
So I'm telling you to do slot deals, and I'm telling you to do option deals, and I'm telling you to do lease option deals. Now, the way you're going to find those deals is low equity. People that have bought a house in the last 5 years is the best way to find those. Or FSBOs or expired listings. Expired listings is perfect for that. Okay, so this is where you're going to look for these people. Right? Now, here's what happens. Is it possible, Peter, that you're out looking for lease options and you get on the phone and you say, okay, you do your pleasantries and then you say, is the house for sale? Yes. Okay. Whose name is on the deed? Well, my name is on the deed. Okay, good. How much you asking for the house? It's $200,000. Okay, good. The only way that I can pay you $200,000 and as is condition and without any landlord obligations is if I were to give you monthly payments until I pay you off. Is that something we could talk about? Right? And we find a person in this script that's willing to do a subject to deal. So what does that mean? Does that mean we don't do a subject to deal? No, that means what you do is you sign a contract with them, a purchase and sales contract with them, or an option. You're only going to sign one or two documents, either a purchase and sales contract or an option. So pick one if you don't know. Just pick one. And get the house locked up and then go to your local RIA or call, send us an email. Or if you're in Creative REI Reply, which you should be, if you're in that group every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a 60 to 90-minute call. And all we do is talk about deals. And there's anywhere from 25 people on that call to 60 people all over the country, okay, every week. Go find somebody else to buy the deal and make yourself $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 and just wholesale the deal. You can wholesale every single type of deal there is if you know how to do it. Right? So don't blow up the deal just because you don't know how to do it. No, write a contract, get some help. Right? Right. So to sum up, because we're at 54 minutes here, if you want to be successful in creative real estate or anything really, right? Here's my little blueprint. Okay. So first step is to find a market you can resonate with. In other words, a farm market that will be acceptable to your type of deal structure. And we've talked about that all day today, right? So you could figure that out. And by the way, resonate could be that you really know the area, right?
Mm.
You like the type of houses. Doesn't mean doesn't mean it has to be your backyard. I know a lot of people that started their business because they vacationed at some place and they liked it, so they started doing deals there.
That's a good idea.
I know people that have done deals because their cousin lives in another city and they're willing to go look at a house for them.
Sure.
I know people that picked an area and know nothing about it and got boots on the ground and everything within place and did a deal within the first 30 days just because they thought the numbers were right.
Mm.
So whatever resonates with you, that's where you start. Start with affinity. Start with affinity.
Hmm.
Then you'll get reality, and then you can start communicating.
Clever.
Okay.
Yeah, you've always said that if you have a deal and you just don't like it, you shouldn't do it. You don't like the house, you don't like the guy, you don't like the area, you don't like something. If it doesn't make you feel like it might work and you're gonna not enjoy, but kind of, appreciate the deal while you're doing it. So the area could be like that. But yeah, like if you don't like it, why would you start?
Yeah.
How can it go
All right.
anywhere better?
Second step. This then means you need the right people with the right message. We do this in our script. Within the first 5 minutes, you qualify to see if they are or not for your type of deal or your message. And honestly, the qualifying part, and I will tell you that this is so important to me, Peter, that I have had multiple conference calls, one which I plan on having today at noontime, on how we can actually be the first company to come out on the market and do this pre-qualifying call with AI in voice as an assistant. We tell them, I'm Bill's
Really?
virtual assistant, and I have some questions for you about the house so we can get you in contact with Bill. So just like we went from bandit signs, we tell them they're assistant. So we go from bandit signs to yellow letters to postcards to texting to now we're going to do it with voice to find people, right?
That's fancy.
Third step, make sure it is the right style of deal for what's going on in that environment. Like I talked about earlier, you're not going to go do a wholesale deal in San Francisco, California, where the inflation there on the properties, the emerging market, which they're the same thing. The emerging market is 15%. There's a line of people standing out front wanting to buy the property.
Yeah.
Why would you want to
couldn't
wholesale
get
a deal there? Yeah.
Right.
So you're just setting yourself up for loss.
But if you got lucky and got one, you'd be in good shape, wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah, but
It's
you
not
have to
likely
call
to get
10.
it.
You have to call 10,000 people to find that one, turn over that one rock at the right exact, at the perfect time, right?
Yeah.
And say that, right?
Hmm.
So, if houses are selling, the way we do that is we look at days on market, right? And if you go to podcast number 383, we talked about days on market, right? So anything that a hot deal or a hot market is properties that sell within 30 days. Often, 5, 10, 15 days on the market, they get under contract. Not closed, they get under contract, right?
Yeah.
A bad area, which by the way, so a bad area, it's 90 days. So a really hot area means it's really easy to sell, really hard to buy.
Right.
A depressed area or a bad area, it's really easy to buy, but really hard to sell. So that's why I picked the 45-day rule of days on the market is around 45 days. That's a good place to trade.
Yeah.
Because you got a little bit of both, right? Step number 4, if you don't do a deal with the seller, time changes everything, and you need to put them into a good follow-up system. End of story. Let automation drip on them. 40% of our deals come from automation because we built rapport with somebody. We kept dripping on them. We kept talking to them, and we were there when they were ready. Okay. Here, you're not deal hunting. You're actually corralling these people. You're corralling. You're not deal hunting now. When they're in your follow-up system, you're not deal hunting. You're just corralling them. So you can give the consistent reoccurring value that you have. So if and when their original viewpoint changes on selling the house, on how they want to sell the house, right? Then you're there. You're on top of mind. Very important follow-up. My main point, so does that make sense?
Oh, sure.
Okay. My main point in today's podcast is these days, now more than ever, it is important to find ways you can speak to a receptive audience. If you're not speaking to a receptive audience, that is more than likely, it is not you needing to know how to do deal structuring. It is not you needing to know how to talk to people on the phone. It's not any of that. Because here's the thing. If you talk to enough people, you will find a motivated seller. How do you know somebody's motivated? They say yes more than they say no.
Right.
Right. So if you find a motivated seller, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. No, I won't do that, but I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. You don't need to know crap. You don't need to know anything. You don't need deal structuring. You don't need any math. You don't need anything. You just need to make the deal happen.
It's true.
Right. And especially if you're doing what I'm talking about, if you're going to do slot deals, option deals, and rent to own, if you've rented a property in your past, you know 90% of what you need to know. It's not your knowledge. So stop telling yourself that. It's the environment you put yourself in to get a deal. It's the environment you put yourself in. You're in the wrong farm market, or you don't have the right script. It's just a bad environment. Or you're not putting enough time in. Or you have a crashing misunderstanding about something and you're just doing everything wrong, which I don't find that too often. Right? Most rookies get feedback from a handful of the wrong audience, suspects, and feel like these non-relevant sellers will set them on fire on social media or sometimes even boycott them. Right? So I went back to the beginning, and when I was talking about, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it. I don't remember what it was. You have to be persistent. You have to have thick skin, right?
Yeah.
Oh, here you are. You're slow to change, and this is Napoleon Hill, slow to change and very reluctant to being stampeded by popular belief. Another word for that is we call that today cancel society.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you think you're going to get canceled. Right?
Yeah. Be like Elon.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't get in trouble for saying that, but that's the whole point. Duh.
So just realize that if you get bad feedback from somebody, they're not the right person to do business with. That's a telltale. Get out of there. Yeah. Right? So it is important to find your place and find your people, both for yourself and your business. So find your place, the farm market, and your people, your type of deals. And avoid exposure to the wrong places and the wrong people. If you don't do this, you will get emotionally beat up and probably quit before you even get started just because you were in the wrong crowd. Right? This is like going to a vegan convention holding a hamburger. Right? Which is like being a Boy Scout, trying to get everyone to sell Girl Scout cookies. Okay? Just don't do that. Last thing, my new Grand Slam offer, talking about doing a slot deal for 3 to 5 years, fits this bill exactly of everything we talked about today. And we have too many people just crushing it. So if you want to bypass the rookie stage and all the theory and just get going so you can get a big chunk of cash quickly, I've done all the work for you. All right? So just go check the link inside of the description and you will find what you need. And it works in every market with every seller perfectly. It's a way you can make an offer I teach it to you. I show you how to do it if you use a script. It's the way you make an offer that the seller feels foolish not to listen to and feels even more stupider to say no because of the amount of money that you're going to make them and the amount of money you're going to make. So hopefully I fulfilled my promise today, Peter. With that said, don't forget to like us. Don't forget to leave us a thumbs up or whatever you do, whatever platform you're watching us or whatever platform you're listening to us on. Make sure you respond to us. That's how we like it. This is a two-way communication. In other words, I don't want to just be preaching to you. I want you to give us feedback. With that said, I'm going to end off. No more anything like trying to sell you anything or try to. This was for you, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and you leave us some nice feedback. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. We're over and out. You flourish and prosper, and we will talk to you on podcast number 384. Have a good week, guys. Over and out.